Okay, then up next, we have Jonathan coming on. Jonathan, how are you doing today?
Doing really well. Thanks, Gadi. Thanks for allowing me to speak. This event is really incredible. The folks that are on this call yeah, it's really impressive. I'm going to show, I started with a single demo and in typical fashion, sort of went down the rabbit hole and started a couple of different things here. So what I've got is a number of different demos. We'll see how much we get through, where we use the structured output capabilities of OpenAI to perform things that are useful for threat analysts. And so I'm the founder of a company called Mallerie AI. We're still roughly in stealth mode, open secret at this point, still pre-product. We use some of these capabilities on a daily basis to send content into the models and essentially get back structured output and then do things with that structured output. And so the first thing I'm going to show off is just like a very simple demo of using OpenAI to essentially parse and extract entities out of content, which ends up being really useful for a variety of things. Then we'll go into using it to do PDFs, and that's somewhat harder because you want to parse the content out of the PDF reliably first. Then we'll do maybe some more interesting things like analyzing an exploit, using that to craft a detection. And if there's time, there's a few other things we can show off. It's unclear to me how many folks know about the structured output capabilities of the models. They're really powerful. You can do all sorts of things with them. And so, here's an example of a object. It's a pydantic object in this particular case, where we are going to send it to the model, and then the model is going to fill it out. And so our job is to just get the content into the context window and then ask it to use its capabilities to give us the content. And so you'll see down here in the main function, use scraping B to go get the content reliably. Scraping B is just a browser as a service. It gets the HTML. There's some neat tricks in this extract. I won't go into them today, but essentially, if you got large content, you don't want to send all that to the model. You essentially ask the model to tell you how to parse the file. And then we kick off this analyze intelligence function, which, just has a system message here and a human message, which tells it how to, construct it. And then it sends in with structured output that pydantic object. And so what we end up getting back is, there's our content extraction, and here's our analysis in the format that we asked for it. And so this particular thing, we just sent in a URL here, old URL. It extracted out all the entities, the findings, and the references that are in that page. So the kind of power here is the ability to sort of get the content back in the format that you decide. And so that's, really, really helpful for building on. And so here's another example where rather than sending in a web page and scraping that web page, we're actually using a new service. This is a YC company called Chunker. And, sort of used this as a chance to play with some new tools. Chunker is really great because you can literally just throw a PDF into it and get back Markdown. So in this case, I think we threw, a Xerox bulletin in. And so this was a PDF I have locally, uploaded it to Chunker, got back the Markdown, shot the Markdown off through that structured output into OpenAI, and we get back, here are the products, the vendors, the CVEs, etc. And so this is really nice because now at scale, we can analyze these advisories and actually tie them into the vulnerabilities, etc. And so, similar idea here. Exploit analysis. Here's a pydantic object for exploit analysis. This is vibe coded. It's not really well thought through in terms of the questions we're asking, but it's impressive that it could vibe code this. I'll just be honest. And so here's the object. Here's some instructions that we sent in, and we get back, a pretty detailed. And here, let's look at the exploit. Here's the exploit in the first place. Now, this is a pretty well documented exploit. It wasn't super contrived. I just grabbed one off exploit DB. Models are great at reading code, and so the thinking here is let's get back characteristics of that exploit. Let's get back the endpoint that it's trying to hit. Why? Well, I mean, step 4 here, let's craft a detection for this thing. So again, a similar approach here. We're going to ask for output that is helpful to craft Sigma rules. And in fact, we even wanted to craft the Sigma rule. And so you can see, we're getting back Sigma rules that were entirely from vibe coded Python that analyzed the exploit and then eventually crafted the detections for it. And by the way, I will drop the code for this in the chat when I stop screen sharing, I guess. And yeah, I don't know. That's probably good enough for today. There's a few more demos in there, more interesting stuff. If you want to dig through it.
We'll hold it for more time for you if you would like to continue.
Okay, cool. Okay, let's go on to number 5. Oh, this one's kind of interesting because, taking action, right? Everybody thinks MCP and, enabling agents, but like, keep in mind, you could still just use Langchain or Langgraph to arm a model with tools. And, I sort of went back and forth on this one. Like, is it a good idea to have a phishing URL analyst, an intelligent phishing URL analyst? On its face, it seems like a good idea. But then the question is like, what's non-deterministic about this? Like if it shows up in VirusTotal or it shows up in URLScan, you probably want to block it. So do we really need intelligence in this? And so if you go further down this path, and I didn't do this in this particular demo, you can think like there are going to be times when you want to do additional analysis or analyze the code that's on the the phishing site. So you might want to use a model for that. But in general, like, do we really need a model for stuff like this? I think there's an open question there. But anyway, there's a couple functions here that are tools. And, this stuff's really easy to build with Langchain and Langgraph because you could just annotate the function as tool. And then let me show you where the magic happens here. In this create URL scanner agent, you're essentially just setting up a model, the tools, the system message, and then using Langgraph's create React agent to hook all that together, get back the agent, and then just call it.
And that's reaching out.
It will reach out to OpenAI in this particular case. Yeah, that's the model we're using. Yep. Yeah, and then when it calls those tools, actually, let's look at the output of it. It'll show you a little more clearly what's going on. So the immediate step of that state graph is to call out to VirusTotal and to call out to URLScan together. And so it'll just submit those, get back the results, and then analyze the results. Now, the results are pretty straightforward. It gives you back like a count of how many. In this case, I think URLScan failed. Let's look at VirusTotal's output. Yeah, detection rate 2 out of 97. So you kind of decide, is that enough of a threshold to do something with? Like, again, do you need non-determinism? Do you need intelligence to decide like what your count is? But it's a neat demo.
Absolutely. Fyodor had the same question I do, which is, I have a network-based defense background, right? So dealing with like, I'm used to actors reacting to my actions. They start seeing those ChatGPT banners. It's 1 millisecond. Maybe it's already happened where they're, exploiting that. Have you seen any evidence of that going
on? This is all just demo stuff. So no, short answer. We're not running this in production yet.
Sure. Yeah, especially after all the stories we're hearing for the past week or so, where it's like, oh, I gave it access to production, and they deleted a bunch of stuff, and now we're living in hell, right? I'm sitting here like, I'm not necessarily the most trustworthy. I don't think anybody who works in security is. So the idea of like, hey, go do things I'm not entirely 100% in the loop on seems a bridge too far.
Not great. Yeah. I mean, a lot of the discussion in the Slack channel for the prompt to get the fuck out. Slack channel is really interesting today with all the MCP, basically malicious MCP servers and people actually getting owned, and real data behind that is really, really interesting. There's some discussion this morning.
Nice.
Yeah, cool. Any more questions?
What lessons have you learned the hard way with this? Still would stick with that.
I mean, be careful what you send in. I mean, it's not uncommon to end up with like a $5,000 bill, if you're not paying attention. So, if you're piping tons and tons of intelligence into the models, like be extra sure what you're doing. And like the mini model, GPT-5 mini is pretty great for entity extraction. Like we're moving some workloads to that. Like we're doing this at scale, like thousands of sources, extracting out all the entities, keeping track of all that stuff. And so I would just say like, evals are useful for things where there's not a clear outcome. And just, you know, typical same thing happened. I remember very early on in AWS, cloud days where like you leave a system on and it costs you tons and tons of money. Like similar situation here. You just have to be smart about what you're piping to the models.
100%. Thanks for the presentation, man. I took a ton of notes.
Cool. Yeah, the code will be there. I'll drop the links in. I'm happy to talk more, and I'll include a link to a Slack where you can chat if you're interested in this stuff. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.